With that, that brings us up to the lightning round of updates.
All
Uh,
right.
so to start off with, it's been a very active month. I've noticed with a lot of news. We were in a sort of quasi lockdown when we last recorded, uh,
Mm-hmm.
and the measures were sort of ramping up. And we last recorded on April 4th, I believe, or around there. Since then, the active number of cases in Manitoba actually fell on April 24th, and so that's largely due to recoveries. Manitoba instituted a ban on non essential travel to remote northern communities. Manitoba was working on measures to reopen some non essential services, and they've sort of came out with those measures.
Now, is it like that ban that the non-essential travel to northern communities? Is that a Manitoba thing, as far as like the government said it, or
Yeah,
is it
yes, that was set by the
or is it the
province.
community themselves saying no, no, no one's coming in type thing?
Communities themselves were saying no one is coming in, but some communities have the highway going through them,
Yes.
and they wanted checkpoints established. And initially, the province said that they weren't going to do that, but they subsequently changed their decision and decided that they would not allow travel from southern Manitoba to northern communities, and
Oh,
that and
interesting.
that's and
Okay.
that's all northern communities, not just First Nations, but also
Yeah, yeah.
Thompson, Flin
Now,
Flon.
how's what? So where did the northern communities start?
Northern communities
Yeah.
start.
I wonder where that starts. Grand Rapids, maybe, or even before that. Whatever.
No, no, no.
but
They have it very explicitly defined. Let's
oh, okay. I know. We delivered some groceries to my niece, who lives near Pegwas in Hudson, and I know they Pegwas shut down any kind of travel into the reserve unless you live there, right? And they have checkpoints where they ask you questions and to make sure that you live on the reserve and stuff like that. But they weren't letting anybody onto the reserve unless you live there.
Yes, yes, that was the case with quite a few First Nations in Manitoba.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's good to see that such an active, prevention of trying to keep it out of the community, right? So,
I, but for the province, I bel I believe it. So for the travel uh,
are
to
you just looking
northern
something up there?
to northern communities, it would be all communities north of the 53rd parallel.
I see.
So
Oh, okay.
so that includes so Barons River is just south of there. Pegwas is well south of that, as
Yeah.
is Swan River, but north of the 53rd, that includes St. Teresa's Point, Norway House, Cross Lake, Thompson.
Thompson, yeah.
Yeah.
Grand Rapids. you were starting to say, talk about the
reopening. So Manitoba was working on measures to reopen non-essential services, as is Saskatchewan. Quebec, surprisingly considering the number of cases there, has a plan to reopen schools this month. The Manitoba plan isn't to reopen schools, but is to reopen non-essential businesses with capacity limits. The Trudeau government, following pressure from Jagmeet Singh and the NDP, has been modifying the COVID-19 economic response plan throughout April to cover more folks left out in the initial rollout. This includes the 75% wage subsidy, which the NDP initially asked for when there was only a 10% subsidy, and a $9 billion package to help students and recent graduates who are ineligible for the Canada Emergency Response Benefit. And lastly, there's been quite a bit of racism against the top public health official in Canada, Dr. Tam. I stand with Dr. Tam.
Wasn't that racism there? That came from wasn't that just one MP?
There's that MP, and there's a bunch of rubes who were sort of starting that online before. So don't want to dwell on it too much, but I stand with Dr. Tam, and enough of that, folks. So this has been quite a lightning round of updates. I know Willie interjected a bit, but is there anything else you'd like to say on this topical
I guess
list?
it's probably important just to. I'd like to know what your thoughts of Manitoba. Basically, this coming Monday reopening. It seems to me a lot of services.
Mm-hmm.
What's your thoughts on that?
I think, well, I would certainly say that this was a lot faster than I expected. I was expecting them to begin reopening maybe in July. I wasn't expecting it to happen in May. So it's happening faster than I expect. I would hope that this is based on the best advice of public health in Manitoba, and that it's not jumping the gun. I know that it's very... I guess when it comes to capacity, having things at half capacity, you hope that that's easily enforceable and that doesn't introduce a false sense of complacency, because I mean, you can sort of roll out with these guidelines and say, we still want you to do physical distancing. It's sort of like the beaches at Florida. You can sort of go out and say, we're going to keep these things open, but we hope that you follow safety precautions, and then people just rush to them because they're open, so to speak.
Yeah.
I'd hope that doesn't happen in Manitoba during the reopening, the half-capacity reopening.
Yeah,
I
like isn't the malls opening?
uh, so so retail businesses can reopen. Uh, Restaurants, patio walk-ups, hairstylists, museums. Uh, I believe that. So this is in phase one, beginning May 4th. So we're recording on Saturday, so that would be on Monday.
Yeah.
So let's just see about the retail businesses.
I imagine there'll be a lineup for haircuts.
So they're supposed to be limiting their occupancy to 50% of normal business levels. So they're supposed to be at half capacity.
I'm scared of like the malls, man. I can see. I don't know. I can see this going. COVID starting to spike again after especially the malls, but it's just like so many people in there. You know what I mean? Like, and then everybody touching the door and stuff. And this is I just see germs everywhere now.
Yes, that.
Turning into a hypochondriac. I guess it's not a hypochondriac if there is a real danger out there, though. So, germaphobe.
And for the province, I'm just reading through some of these guidelines. I don't. For the phase one, I don't see anything sort of. I see them talking about retail businesses, but I don't see anything specifically about shopping centers or malls. And that's,
I can't imagine them, staying closed if all other retail are starting to open, right?
Yeah. And when they announced this at the press conference where they did this announcement, they usually allow one initial question and one follow-up. They weren't allowing follow-up questions when they announced this.
Really, eh?
Yeah. So yeah, I'd really hope that they sort of have good, strong public health enforcement capacity to ensure that people aren't congregating or mass gathering in like some of these retail centers, but they seem to be going very, very quickly with phase one of the reopening, and yeah, that is that makes me that makes me a bit weary.
Yes.
I hope that, their initial response to COVID-19 in terms of the public health side has been very, very, I'd say, compliant with the consensus of public health experts. So I'd hope that this is an evidence-informed decision by the province.